Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Well, we've got the potential for a significant ice storm for parts of the area. The question is how far south we're going to see that risk. And even for Charlotte, we're going to see some ice. There's a trend that we've seen the cold air get a little bit further south, which I'll explain, which is a little worrisome for parts of Charlotte because I think we are going to see some icing. So here's what's going on. Here's our storm system. We can clearly see it. We've got high pressure up here. You see it over Ohio? It's pumping down northeast winds. So this is essentially the ideal setup for an ice storm. We've got cold air streaming in from the north, and I'm going to stop this right here. We'll look at the temperatures. So what you're looking at are temperatures. Temperatures in the 20s and 30s, so really cold air moving into the region. I'm going to put the sea level pressure on just to show you as well. These are the dew points. So why is the dew point important? Well, when you have cold air being advected or transported into the Carolinas, as long as it's dry, their initial batches of moisture evaporate, and that evaporative cooling causes the air to drop as well. So you're seeing, potentially the potential that the air could get colder than it is currently based on the fact that we're seeing this dry air in place. So it really kind of sets the stage for potentially some really, cold air setting up across our region. You can see the typical wedge setting up. That's that cold, dry air kind of getting smushed against the mountains. And really, that's what we're going to watch. This high sitting here, the storm tracking like this, pushing moisture up and over this cold air to surface, which sets the stage for our icing event. So kind of let me show you how this is going to evolve a little bit here on a wide perspective, and then we'll zoom in. So real quickly, here's where the warnings and advisories are. So most of the area north of Charlotte has been upgraded to a winter storm warning. That includes Asheville to Hickory to Greensboro, Salisbury. So all the areas in pink, that's a winter storm warning. This lighter purple blue, that's a winter weather advisory. Now, this could be expanded as well. And I would also caution you, we might see upgrades to ice storm warnings or freezing rain advisories. If it looks like it's going to stay mostly ice, some of these areas to the north and west could be upgraded to a freezing rain advisory or an ice storm warning, okay? The reason this is up is primarily for ice. Sure, we could see some snow and sleet mixing it up in here briefly, but this is all about ice. So let's get right to the details of this. So let's get right into this. 11 o'clock tonight, this is PM. Nothing happens today, so all day is fine. So here's 11 PM. Notice the temperatures, notice the winds, notice the moisture coming in. So 1, 2 in the morning. This is kind of when I think things will start to get a little icy. Notice the ice, and yes, there could be snow and sleet at the beginning. If we're going to see snow and sleet, higher elevations early on, even across Charlotte, it would happen early tonight. Temperatures are above freezing in Charlotte, but they're starting to drop along Interstate 40. It's that 4, 5, 6 o'clock time frame in the morning. This is 6 a.m. Notice the temperatures here. Below freezing, Morganton, Hickory, Lincolnton, Statesville, Salisbury. Charlotte, not quite there yet. So it's really right around sunrise, 7 a.m., we start to see the temperature plummet. Now, here's the concern. This is not going to be light precipitation. This is going to be heavy. So when it's coming down, it's going to be, freezing pretty quickly. So it's not drizzle or mist. These are heavy downpours. So 7 a.m. really looks brutal across a big chunk of the year. 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. The good news is by noon, two things happen. The temperature looks like it warms up enough that we start to see temperatures just above freezing. I say warm, just above the freezing mark. But we also see the precipitation begin to become a little more scattered and light. The only thing to watch out for is, this is a piece of guidance like anything else. Sometimes the cold air holds on up in here much longer than the guidance would indicate, and that could keep the ice going into the afternoon. But I think everybody sees things improve mid to late afternoon, and that's why the winter storm warning and advisory goes through 7 p.m., because really by then we expect things to be improving and move out fairly quickly. Now, how much ice are we talking about? Well, real quickly, I'm going to slide this on. This is my latest map just to show you. The highest threat for damaging ice is right in here. Okay? This is where we're talking power outages, significant problems, but we are getting pretty close to this creeping down to the state line. The 10th to 2/10 is getting close to Interstate 85 across south of Salisbury, Concord, Charlotte, Gastonia, Shelby, north. So all the cities in north of Interstate 85. And even in South Carolina, probably not as significant an ice event, but you're probably going to get a glaze to 1/10 of an inch on probably treetops. Elevated stuff is what I'm looking at. And just to show you the power disruption. If I think we're going to see power disruption based on icing, wind, trees, the red and orange is the area of biggest concern. So scattered to major concerns in that area. The yellow, more isolated, and and you notice how it's the northern half of Mecklenburg County, Gaston, Cleveland, Cabarrus County. But to the south, we're not expecting a significant winter event in that area, just a light glazing. So let's start with the worst areas first with the timing, and I'm going to show you this. So here's what I think as far as timing for areas along Interstate 40 North, the area that's going to get hit the hardest. Notice the timeline, 2 a.m., things are starting to go downhill. But this morning time frame, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning till maybe midday, significant freezing rain, hazardous travel, and power outages. Power outages are sometimes a lagging indicator because the ice builds up, and even as the freezing rain moves out, then the branches and power lines. So sometimes it's a cascade effect that happens even after the heaviest precipitation moves out. So be cautious of that. Outages can happen even as stuff is melting and falling after the heavy precipitation moves out. And so I think that's going to be our worst area. Now around Charlotte, and again, this is really dependent on how far north you are. Northern half of the counties could have much worse conditions than the southern half. So I'm thinking the same time frame, though, that early morning time frame until about 10 or 11 o'clock. Again, a glaze to 1/10 of an inch, maybe 2/10 in some of the hardest hit areas north. Elevated roadways, probably the biggest issue around Charlotte. Won't be so much power problems. It's going to be slick travel. That time frame in the morning from 6 a.m. to noon, probably not advisable to be driving too much. And if you are driving, just assume bridges and overpasses have ice on it. That's kind of the way I would approach just about all of this because of that. Now, I want to show you a couple things because one of the concerns we have is the trend in the models. And I showed you this last night. So what could go wrong is, the trend in the guidance has been for the ice to push further south. So if you look, you actually see the ice trending closer to Charlotte. So this is the latest blend of the models, we call it. And I have this zoomed in a little bit to show you. So this is the latest run. So here's Charlotte in the middle of the screen. It's got 2/10 at the airport, Concord, almost 3/10. You see all the area in dark pink. That's significant. So this is a little worrisome because this trend has continued since Sunday night. Ever since Sunday night, the freezing rain line, which started up here, has been now down to here today. So since Sunday to today, that's where the freezing rain line has advanced. And so that's something that, I am very wary about and why I'm a little bit more concerned about most of Mecklenburg County than we normally see. It's not trending the other way. It's not trending this way. And one of the things about model guidance that we know, and I know from experience, cold air damming events like this, the cold air is colder and it lasts longer. But the other thing is we've seen with this Arctic outbreak in the middle of the country, the depth of the shallow Arctic air has been really problematic. The models have under-modeled how cold and dry that air is. So that's a real legitimate concern as the system gets closer. And I'm going to get a little geeky here and show you the sounding because this is something we look at quite a bit. I'm going to back this up a little bit actually to when the precipitation moves in. So if we look at this, wrong site. We're going to look at this as the precipitation moves in. So this is a simulated sounding of what the atmosphere is going to look like. And what you're looking at here, the reason you're here is to say warm nose sometimes, because this warm pocket looks like a nose from the side. So if you had an eye here, nose, and this is the mouth, it looks like a nose. So that's where that term comes from. If you've ever heard that, that's where that term comes from. But you see the warm air aloft. So it's above freezing from about 9,000 feet down to 2,000 feet. But below 2,000 feet, the temperature is getting close to freezing. And you can see it here on the left. The left shows you the temperatures with height. So this is in Celsius. When you see a minus number, that means it's below zero. So you can see around 1,000 feet to 700 feet, it's below freezing, just above freezing at the surface. But look how warm it is at 4,000 to 5,000 feet. That's almost 50 degrees. So it's almost 50 degrees up here, while down at the ground it's near 32. That's freezing rain. And you look at this and say, all right, Brad, I say rain, but we're literally talking about tenths of a degree difference between ice. And the fact that it's below freezing just above our heads means that water is getting cooled down, so it doesn't take as much for it to freeze back instantly to ice. So That's the real concern as the system gets closer to us, that we're going to see it change over to ice quicker and stay ice longer. So again, this is the map that we're keeping an eye on. This is my latest one, and of course I will update it throughout the day, tonight, tomorrow as we get closer to this event. But I will tell you right now, if you live in these areas, please be prepared for a significant ice storm. If it isn't as bad as we expect, that's great, but the potential is really legit there that we could see power outages and trees coming down because of the amount of moisture and how cold the air is. It's a very narrow margin between pretty big winter storm, crippling ice storm, and just a nuisance. So be prepared in those areas around Charlotte. Really going to be a travel issue, I think, for a lot of us, especially if you're going north anywhere. Anywhere to the north and mountains could be a real problem tomorrow. Stay tuned, stay weather aware, be safe. Use today to prepare, charge everything up, put some extra supplies off to the side. Put your emergency kit together. Have some extra blankets, in case you have a power outage. Think about what would you do if you have a power outage? What would you be missing? Get that stuff together. Have a backup plan today.